Hey guys, welcome back to Detroit Lions Fonza. Pretty good games this the first week of the NFL season. The Rams really brought it to us. Defense had 3 interceptions on Stafford, but at the end of the game, we got the win, which mattered at the end of the day. But you know, looking forward to week 2, and let's get into the picks really quick. First game is gonna be a tough one for me. Thursday night, got the Green Bay Packers taking on the Chicago Bears. Some key things to look at is going to be both defenses against the offenses. I want to see if Green Bay's defense can rebound a little bit as far as because they did play against the 49ers, probably the one of the more physical teams in the league right now. So we'll see if their defense can get a little more pressure going up against the Chicago Bears offensive line, and I want to see how their offensive line does against Green Bay's front. Not to mention, you got the secondaries for both teams. I expect Cutler and Aaron Rodgers both to put up some decent numbers, and you got the receivers, and let's not forget the addition of Brendan Marshall for the Chicago Bears and some of the guys they drafted. So they're looking pretty solid on the receiver over there in Chicago, and we already know the story with Green Bay's offense. This is going to be a really good game. It's kind of tough for me to choose right now, but I just don't. I think the Packers are really going to come out to play, and they're being at home. I don't see them dropping 2, so I'm going to have to go with Green Bay. But this is going to be a close one. If Chicago wins, it's not going to be surprised at all. This is when it comes to Chicago and Green Bay, it goes right down to the wire. So expect a good game, fellas. And I'm going to go with Green Bay in this one. But if Chicago wins, I will not be surprised. But there we go, going 1-1 for both two NFC North teams. Next, you got Kansas City and Buffalo. Buffalo coming off of a tough loss against the New York Jets, division rivals, and then you got the Chiefs coming off a loss against the Falcons. One of these teams will rebound this week, and who I'm gonna decide to pick, I think I'm gonna go with the Chiefs right now, because I think they got some pretty solid defense. Buffalo, I'm not sure what happened in that first game, if they got beat at the line, in the trenches, but we'll see how that goes. And they lost Fred Jackson, but C.J. Spiller did come out and do some he did a legitimate job when he came in. But yeah, Buffalo's got to pick it up a little bit on their offense and be careful with the turnovers. And the Kansas City Chiefs, it's hard to play in Arrowhead, and not to mention they've got great defense, and their offense didn't do too bad. They hung in there for the first half against the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm going I'm going with the Chiefs in this one, but we'll see what Buffalo does. Give them some time to really get things going, but right now I got to go with the Chiefs. Then you got the Saints in Carolina. Saints coming off of a loss against the Washington Redskins, and Carolina coming off of a loss against the division rival Tampa Bay Bucks. This should be a good one. I expect a little more from both offenses on both sides, because they both did play against a little more high caliber defenses. But we're going to see how this one goes. I expect Cam to put up a little more numbers, and same for Drew Brees and vice versa. Well, I'm going to choose in this game. I think I'm going to go with New Orleans to get their first win, and for the Panthers to drop another. But we'll see how it goes. It's another division game, and I want to see how much. Let's see how much it can improve since last year. And then you got Cleveland and Cincinnati. Cleveland coming off a close win, a close loss against the Philadelphia Eagles, lost in the last minutes, and then Cincinnati really just laid an egg against the Baltimore Ravens. I didn't expect their defense to give up that much points, but the Ravens really surprised me. A very good looking team, but in this one I'm gonna have to go with Cincinnati to rebound. And what can you say? You got Trent Richardson. He'll get his yards. It's really going to come down to how much improvement you see from Brendan Whedon. I don't see too much happening this week, and yeah, we're going to see how that one turns out. All right, next you got the Minnesota playing the Indianapolis Colts. Minnesota coming off a good win. In Indianapolis, they did a couple good things in that game against Chicago, but right now I just see Minnesota as a little better team, and I'm going to take the Vikings in this game. And you got Houston and Jacksonville. In this one, I'm gonna go with the Texans. They're looking really good. It's just a matter of time before they really get that offensive going. They're gonna be one of the hardest teams to beat. But Jacksonville they put in a good fight there. I thought they almost got that win against Minnesota, but I'm gonna go with Houston. They're looking really good right now. Next, you got Oakland and Miami. Now Oakland in the game they just had, they really did beat themselves in that game. They got to really get it together especially on their special teams. I like what I saw out of Carson Palmer. He was looking really nice. He had a couple throws where it kind of, sailed a little bit, was a little off target, but, for the most part, he looked improved. He put a couple balls on a couple receivers. They've got to make the plays. Their defense really did a good job, depending on how much good yards that the Chargers had throughout that game. So, congrats to their D. They got to really get it going with that special teams. They really killed themselves. They got to get rid of the penalties. And then you got Miami. They're still pretty up and coming, so they got some things to learn and do. So I'm gonna have to go with the Raiders right now to rebound, pending not too much bad things go on with their special teams again, because you can't have that happening week in and week out. Next, you got Arizona and New England. Arizona coming off a big win against division rival Seattle Seahawks. In this game, I'm going to go with New England. I like what I'm seeing out of the Patriots, and I think they got something to prove right now. Could be an interesting one. We'll see how it goes, but, I got New England in this one. Next, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the New York Giants. Tampa looked pretty decent on that with their defense. I like what I'm seeing. It looks like they're ready to play this year, a little more physical. Got the Giants coming out that first loss against the Cowboys. They were a little shaky in their secondary, but I think they'll get it going as the year goes on. But right now, I'm going to go with the New York Giants to get their first win. Tampa get their first loss, so it'll be 1-1 for both teams, but this should be a good one. Then you got Baltimore and Philadelphia. Philly barely pulling out the win against the Cleveland Browns, as I stated earlier, and Baltimore coming off an amazing win. I have to go with the Baltimore Ravens right now. I got to see more from Philadelphia's offense and Michael Vick. They've really got to get it going. They can't do the same mistakes they were having. You got to run Shady McCoy more than they did in that game. It's just the attempts compared to how much they were trying to pass. It's just ridiculous. And I know that in Cleveland Brown, they got some really good defense, but you gotta run it. Even if you don't get too many yards, you gotta run the ball. But right now, I'm going with Baltimore. They look very solid on defense and offense. Like what I'm seeing out of the Ravens, so I'm gonna go with Baltimore in this game. Then you got Dallas and the Seahawks. In this game, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I really think these guys they're turning that edge, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see. The Seattle Seahawks could surprise them, but we'll see about that. Russell Wilson didn't look too bad, but I want to give him a couple more games before I really make any final determinations. But I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. Next, you got Washington and the St. Louis Rams. Rams, as I said before, almost took out the Lions in Week 1. But, I really like what I'm seeing out of Washington. But this is going to be a good game, I think this one's going to go right down to the wire. But in the end, I think I'm going to go with Washington. I like what I'm seeing out of RG3. Very good presence in the pocket. You have two very... but Sam Bradford, he could be up there pretty soon here too. But right now, I like what I'm seeing out of RG3. Very mobile, so he'll keep the pace going. Their defense isn't looking too bad. As long as it really will come down to turnovers on both teams, but I don't think there will be too many turnovers. But we'll see about that. But I'm going to go with the Redskins in here. Then you got the New York Jets taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a tough one for me to pick. The Steelers did give up Peyton Manning did have his day with them, but it's Peyton Manning, and they did have to play the Broncos, and not to mention they got some good runs. We'll see how their defense plays in this next game against the Jets, because it's going to be a little toned down when you have what you have in Denver. They've got some really good guys, but now back on the topic, Jets coming off a big win. The Pittsburgh Steelers coming off the loss against Denver, but this game it's kind of tough for me to pick. But I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think they're going to bounce back and get the win. This is going to be a 3-point game. This is going to be one of them that goes right down to the last minute. Okay. Then the next game you have the well, hold on. I'm going to skip that game and come back to it. And we'll go right down to that Monday night game, which is the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Denver Broncos. Now this one's going to be interesting. I want to see if Atlanta can bounce back with the same high tempo offense that they had. They look like a dangerous team. You got Michael Turner, Roddy White, you got Julio Jones, and let's not forget Matt Ryan. And their line didn't do too bad in this game either. So that's always you want your trenches to be playing rough and tough. Then you got the Denver Broncos. Love what I saw of them. Willis McGahee, Peyton Manning, and you have all their guys in New York Decker. They've got some really good people out there, and we're gonna see how it goes. I'm looking forward to this game. It's gonna be a good Monday night showdown. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Broncos just by a hair, but I really don't know who to decide on. But I'm gonna go with the Broncos in a close game. It's gonna go right down to the wire, and we'll see. What do you guys think on this game? But yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. Oh, and I almost forgot. Then you got the Tennessee Titans playing the Chargers. So let's see. In this game, I think I'm gonna go with the Chargers to get that second win. I gotta see what happened with Locker because he did have that little injury, so we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully he's not too hurt, but they say he's gonna play, so it should be a decent one. I expect the Chargers to get their offense going a little more because the amount of attempts they had, they didn't score too many touchdowns. They only had one, I believe, against the Oakland Raiders. But yeah, I expect them to pick it up a little bit and for the Chargers to get the win. And last but not least, got the Detroit Lions taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, what I saw in week 1 with the 49ers taking on the Green Bay Packers, it looked just as physical as last year, and then on offense they looked even better than last year. Now, we played the San Francisco 49ers last year. Different year, different season, different city, because we were in Detroit last time. But I think we're going to get the same results. I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Detroit Lions in week 2. And the reason why is basically because as physical as they are, I think we're still a little shaky on the offensive line, especially going against the 49ers. We already know what you're going to get. And the thing is, it really comes down to we don't really have a running back who can just, push on the roster right now that can push for those really much needed yards, even if it's 3 yards, 2 yards here. Because when you play the Niners, you got to be able to try and balance it out. Yes, we have Calvin Johnson on offense. Titus Young, I don't know he did the headbutt in week 1 against the Rams, so we'll see what happens with him. I mean, we've got some good weapons, but when you play the 49ers, ultimately you got to be very physical, and I don't think we can match them right now, but we'll see. The Lions could surprise us. I mean, on the defensive line, we got some physical guys, but they've got a pretty physical offensive line themselves, and with the additions of Randy Moss and some of the other guys they brought in, Mario Manningham, and you got Brendan Jacobs, it's just going to be a tough one. Right now, they're just stacked, and I don't see how we're going to beat these guys, but I expect the 49ers to beat us by like maybe 10. I'm just trying to be as realistic as I can here, but the Detroit Lions have a chance. But we're at home, we're in their city, so it's going to be loud. They're going to really have to fight in this one, and Stafford's going to have to be careful with his throws on in week 1. I don't think we'd be able to pull out the same thing we did in week 1 if he throws as many interceptions, but the defense is it's really ultimately going to come down to the Detroit Lions defense making stops when needed. And we're going to have to try and keep this game close. Of course, how we're going to have to play this game, we're going to have to play it to the 49ers pace, because I don't think we can just sit there and try and throw like we did last time. We're going to have to figure something out. It doesn't really help with Javid Best out because we can't really do our screen kind of game, and then we don't have Mike LaShore, so this is going to be a tough one for the Lions to win, but right now I got the Niners winning. You guys give me your thoughts, but it should be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. The Lions might surprise me, but right now I got the Niners. You guys let me your thoughts and tell me what you think, and I'll see you the next time on the Detroit Lions Fonza.